Alright everyone, hello and welcome to the first ever Strife tournament hosted by Surreal Gaming. I'm Azaraki, and here with me casting today is the Source, and we're already into the picks and bans of the first game. How's it going?
Good. The first two bands that have already come out are Harrower and Rook. So Rook, as many of us in solo queue have seen, and we've seen in a lot of competitive plays, very very strong. The ability to disengage aggro by using your W is insane. It allows you to make a lot of really powerful plays, and Rook is a very strong scaling range carry. Harrower, on the other hand, the ability to harass pretty much with impunity using that wolf is pretty effective, as well as the damage increase as well, and his health gain make him a very strong solo laner. He also gains a lot just in terms of pressure and map objective control.
Yep, so the first game here is Bipolar versus Toxic Player, and I don't really know too much about either of these teams, so I can't really call what they're going to end up picking in terms of their actual hero picks and team comps. But we'll always end up seeing some of the stronger heroes in the game, and no tanks have been banned yet, which is also a good sign because there was actually one game during the SPL where two tanks were banned, I believe. No, one of the bans was Harrower, the other was a tank, and then one of the teams actually picked both of the other two tanks that were still left up, and that actually ended up completely messing up the team comps for one of the other teams. So the first pick is going to be Bastion, which is a very strong pick. He's got quite a bit of engage because he has a dash that allows him to stun people. On top of that, he can shield his entire team, and he's also got quite a bit of AoE slow and damage on his ultimate. However, it is on a delay, so you do have to kind of time that out pretty well.
So we've got Bastion coming out for FnK, and then on the other side, Minerva Hale. So much stronger engagement here, or more on the assassin end. The engagement is very much there in damage. Minerva does have her slow, and Hale has his AoE ultimate, but I'd say that's a very non-tanky assault line if they go for the full damage combo.
And they definitely might. And they might have enough engaged. We'll see what the other picks are. But if they have any follow-up lockdown, they might actually just be able to run this without a hard initiate, or well, not necessarily a hard initiate. Hale does that really well because he can dash in, and then, as you said, use his ultimate. But they're not really going to be running a tanky comp maybe if they stick with these picks, and we'll see what their next two picks are going to be. But if they have enough follow-up CC, they might be able to make it work. Over on the other side, Bipolar going to be banning it, or going to be picking Ray and Claudessa. So another tank in the hands of Claudessa, which is they're running two tanks. That's going to be pretty hard to stop, and that's actually a really good pick to sort of counter the first two picks of Toxic Player because Minerva and Hale are really, really good at just going in, bursting down squishies, and either getting out or just continuing to burst down squishies. But if your team has enough tankiness and enough peel, then that sort of strategy might not work too well. But they've ended up picking up Lady Tinder and Vermilion as their next two picks, so still no tank.
Yeah, that's their composition's gone more with the as long as they don't engage on us, we're fine. The problem is Bastion very very strong engage, single target but very strong pick engage. Ray great AOE engage with his laser net. That thing has the stun is pretty long. That's gonna set up a lot of plays for Ray stun into Bastion, Ray stun into Claudessa Q, Ray stun into just sort of running over them. If Bastion and Claudessa are close enough in range and start popping out, Bastion pops out his ultimate, Claudessa pops out her ultimate. That's a lot of AoE damage out of Claudessa and the bonus damage out of Bastion. It's going to be very, very easy to follow up at range from Ray and whatever else they pick. And, it's not out of the question for them to add in a little bit more crowd control. There's actually a lot of crowd control for pretty much every character in Strife. I think the only person, if I'm looking at all the remaining heroes, everybody there has some form of crowd control. Moxie's got his slow, and that's about it. But they've now added Trixie to that composition, so that's going to add the polymorph on the ultimate, and the slow on the cauldron.
Yeah, again, more CC, but now the thing that they're lacking so far is basically a hard-ranged carry, someone like Feder, Rook, and there we go, Feder right there. I was actually going to mention that's probably what they're going to end up picking, Rook being banned out and Vermilion picked on the other side, but it looks like Toxic Player counters it with a Blazer, so again, we have the full YOLO comp over on Toxic Player. They have a lot of engage, they have quite a bit of CC, but they don't really have a tank. They don't really have someone who can do amazing peel. Tinder is the closest thing that can do that, although she doesn't have too much in terms of massive AoE shutdown. So Hale can definitely go in, and at that point they're basically relying on damage to follow up with Hale's initiation rather than follow up CC. So it's definitely going to be an interesting game. I think I'll have to say that the picks and bans phase went a little bit better for Bipolar, but we're definitely going to have to see how these teams play in game because obviously the um, the skill level of these players is definitely going to make a huge difference here.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is I'd like to call Featherstone the anti-carry carry. He's the anti-assassin AD carry. He's also kind of the anti-AD carry AD carry. With the siphoning power on his E, the fact that he can take strength away from a single target, they're gonna have to blow him up pretty much instantly. If Minerva tries to 1v1 him, that's going to get dangerous later towards the game when he takes away a lot of her power. If she doesn't instantly burst him down, um, she's uh, Minerva's going to run into trouble dealing with Featherstone. Um, another situation is going to be when Hale goes in for that kind of play. When Vermilion and Blazer are trying to pick something. So Blazer's actually a good way to deal with Featherstone. That's going to help lock him down. But if Featherstone is able to skirt his way around a lot of the engagements, you're going to run into trouble.
Yeah, and I want to give a little bit of a reminder to people. This stream is on a 3-minute delay, and since there's no actual set delay inherently in the Strife game or in the Strife client, then we have to do that manually. So everything you guys hear right now is happening 3 minutes later than it is actually happening. So if you guys do post in chat, we will probably be reading those. You just won't hear it for another 3 minutes because the players do not want anyone else to ghost any of their strategies, any of their sentry tower picks, or any, say, if someone tries to go and sneak the Sandara, people don't want the other team to be able to see that. So we just need to put that inherent delay in the game, and we'll be getting into match momentarily. The game is currently being set up as we see all the picks and bans are fully through. Big shoutouts to WT Fast. They're a great company, and a little bit about their product as well. One of the big things they do is stabilize your ping. So I'm not personally an expert on how it works, but basically they run through private servers, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but it's meant to say if you have ping spikes of, normally you're playing at 100 ping and then suddenly it jumps up to 200 for a couple seconds, goes back down. Even though 100 ping isn't too great in terms of your initial internet connection, the inconsistency is the thing that really ends up hurting you, because if you play on a solid 100, you can get used to that. I play League of Legends on 109 or something because I live on the East Coast. But with WT Fast, that number just doesn't change, which is really good, and you can just easily get used to whatever ping count that you have.
I've seen it work for a lot of people. It's been very, very effective lowering ping. I actually saw a couple of guys playing on the Australian server in League of Legends using the program, and it, dropped them. Granted, I don't know why they were over on the Australian server. Beats me, but yeah, it did help them out a little bit.
Alright, lobby has been created, and invite should be out, so we're just going to get into there fairly quickly. There we go. Not too sure what's happening right now. Apparently there is only one spectator slot so far, so we're just going to see what is going on with that and if we can remedy that as quickly as possible. In the meantime, If you guys want to check out some of our social media, you can find us at Surreal Gaming, Surreal Gaming on Twitter. So basically just gaming without the A, and that's where you can find us there. Once again, I am Azaraki Dragon. Casting with me today is The Source. And yeah, we're just gonna continue to try to figure out these technical difficulties that we're having real quick, and we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, a little beyond me why all of the team, like, they're spectators, guys. Why is there only one spectator spot? There's a bit of confusion that they didn't know you can make a custom game with more than one spectator. You can actually make a custom game in Strife with up to 10 spectators, which is a impressive bit of programming. So we will be making the game one more time. Hopefully that won't take them all that long. A lot of these guys are new to competitive, which is part of why we're doing this. We want you guys out there in the Strife community to get as many shots at playing in competitive matches as possible. And a lot of people are new to competitive play, and there's basic settings in there that people forget.
Alright, we have another lobby that's been set up. Hopefully this one has a second spectator slot. There we go. It does, so we're getting right into that.
Oh my god. Alright, so we should be able to get into this game pretty quickly.
Yep, so we already have, it looks like Toxic is already in game, and we're just waiting on Bipolar to start joining in, start trickling in. Sorry for the amount of slow time that we have right here. Hopefully it goes a little bit better as the tourney continues on. Again, a lot of these teams have not really been playing too much in terms of the competitive level, so they're still just getting used to how to create these matches and whatnot. But yeah, there was something that was mentioned in chat. Bo was still left up for Toxic to pick as a last pick, but he was actually not picked there. Bo's a really strong tank right now, and on top of that, he's a tank in the first place. The rest of that comp just doesn't have a straight tank. What do you think about that? Do they have some sort of plan with this YOLO comp?
It could be that they believe that their laning phases will win out for them. That they think that they mechanically are going to be able to dominate their laning phases and get to a point where it doesn't matter that they have no tanks if their key components, being the Hail and the Minerva, are fed to the point where they can dive straight into the backline, take out the carries pretty much instantly, and they don't need to worry about dealing with the tanks.
That could definitely be, so we'll see how these guys' laning phases go. So, the game was recently released into open beta, so we could just talk about some of the overall things about Strife, because we might have some new players in chat, we might have some new players watching this, so Strife is, and it looks like we are remaking again. Awesome. So Strife is a MOBA which is quite different from a lot of other MOBAs, and it takes aspects from a lot of different MOBAs as well. So you have a courier system, but it's not like Dota where I believe you only get one courier for your entire team and it's shared, whereas Strife, you get an individual courier, and it's not something that people can kill or steal items away from. It just goes to you, so you can stay in lane for however you want, and you don't have to worry about going back to get items. And on top of that, if you stay out of combat, that means you don't get hit or you don't attack or use abilities for a couple of seconds, then you'll end up getting out of combat regen. That regenerates your health and mana fairly quickly, so in duo lanes it's quite an interesting sort of synergy you can do with your lane partner, where if one of you gets taken down to really low health or uses a lot of spells and gets taken down to really low mana, then the other person can take over for the last hitting, because last hitting is also shared, the gold from it anyway. So if one person gets the last hit, both players get the gold for it, which is a really interesting system. It's really neat, and combined with the out of combat regen makes for some really interesting gameplay. And that it doesn't necessarily just make the game easier either, because it brings a whole new aspect of the game where part of your laning phase is going to be trying to prevent your enemy from getting the out of combat regen. Like that's going to be one of the huge parts of the game. And the match has
It
been remade again, so hopefully it'll work this time.
have wait, not the one we're currently in.
Not the one we're currently in. The one we're currently in is
Awesome.
the remade match. The successfully remade, hopefully.
Yes. So we should be into the um okay. Yes, we should be getting the last two players in here momentarily. Trying to assist some of the admins in keeping things straight.
Yep, no doubt. Oh, there we go. Last two players are in, so hopefully the start button will be pressed this time and we can actually see a game here. It's almost done. It's almost good. Okay, so Toxic is actually going to be called Ryan Stiltz. So I'm gonna switch that away right quick.
Wait, so Toxic as in the player is Ryan Siltz or the team?
The
If the
team.
team is okay.
Team name is Ryan Stiltz.
Alright, so we should be getting into this momentarily. The guys will be choosing through their heroes, hopefully pretty quickly. And we'll be into our first match just to give you, just talk about the compositions again. We've got FnK running a double tank with Bastion and Claudessa, some ranged harass with Trixie and Ray, and then Featherstone as one of the main carries.
And over on the
Uh,
side for Ryan, we have Minerva, Hale, Lady Tinder, Vermilion, and Blazer. So Minerva and Hale, both really good at getting in, disrupting things, assassinating people, and just doing a bunch of damage really, really quickly. Lady Tinder's got quite a bit of utility, got some heals, got some CC, and overall just has a well-rounded support kit. Vermilion is going to be their sort of... Vermilion and Blazer both have the potential to be their sort of ranged carry in the game, and they both do quite a bit of damage from a distance so long as they stay safe. And that's going to be one of the biggest things I want to say for Team Ryan is that they're really going to have to make sure that their positioning is on point, because as we talked about during the actual picks and bans, they don't really have a tank. They don't really have someone who can do a lot of peel. Lady Tinder's got a little bit of peel, but outside of her Q, there's really not too much that she can do, which is, it's kind of interesting. We'll have to see how they actually make that work, but as you said, it might be that their plan is to try to end the game early, get some laning phase control, and just try to snowball the game off of there, because, zero tanks against two tanks, as long as Bipolar can manage to peel correctly for Feder and Ray, they're just going to be able to take the game late game.
um, I mean, it'll be close to see whether or not they're able to pull something like that off. Just because tanks are pretty strong in this game. Tanks actually do a lot of good early base damage. So I don't know. I haven't seen enough intense competitive play to really be able to say one way or the other. But I think that the competition with some tanks is going to win out unless Ryan Stiltz makes some very, very impressive play.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what sort of impressive play they do. So right now the players are loading into the game. Let's see what they end up deciding to buy in terms of their starting items. Got a couple of boots all around, a little bit in terms of the... Oh man, these guys are pinging all over the place, and I just, like, all I'm hearing is, attack the tower, 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 tower. Oh god.
Okay, I got kicked out of game.
Did you? Can you spectate
Yeah,
off?
I'm trying to relog right now. Because Strife client S best client. At least it's not Adobe Air. We can all be thankful it's not Adobe
So
Air.
we have Bipolar looking to set up a 5-man gank in one of the middle brushes, a little bit to the underside of the lane. So we'll see if anyone decides to cross through that bush. It could be a very it is a very cheeky play, but we'll see if Ryan's gonna fall for it or not. They see Blazer, I believe, and no, they're not going to be able to do anything about it. They're playing. Both teams are. Well, actually, Ryan is playing this pretty safely so far. I don't think they expect anything. Minerva went over here to get this sentry turret, but that's not really going to help them out in this situation. But we really have to think of how long these guys are going to plan on staying there, because they do have to return back to their lanes fairly soon, and there we go. They're going to do that right now. A little bit of a cauldron pop by Trixie. Not going to hit anything, but then again, this is before minions even spawn, so out of combat region is going to heal up anyone who would have gotten poked by that. Any luck getting back in?
Yeah, no, I'm logged back in. I should be loading in just a few seconds.
Alright, sweet. So the gold per minute graphs, all even. Minions have just barely gotten to lane, so we'll see a little bit of dynamic here and whether or not these teams can actually get an early level 2 advantage and try to pull that off. So mid lane, creeps arrived there first. A little bit of trading all around. No one really too worse for wear. Both waves completely cleared. So we're going to just be seeing Bastion actually seeing if there's anything he can do up in the top lane. He's sort of hiding behind the wall, maybe trying to trick people into thinking it's a 1v2. And right now, the Ryan might be thinking, you know, where's Bastion? Is he going to come out of nowhere? And he might decide to go around the side of it as soon as he hits level 2. There it is, and he is going to go in for that gank.
Yeah, the dash right on top of Hale, gets down the stun. Hale should be able to walk away from this, but it's going to be pretty low. Uses the Q to dash away, and now nice return damage coming out of Vermilion. He was able to bring Bastion pretty low. Featherstone did start getting off that damage drain and slowing down the damage. Hale's going to need to start to regen on his own. Nice engagement by Featherstone, lands the Q and does a little bit more damage to Vermilion, lands off the Q from Vermilion, and now Bastion needs to be careful. Gonna go in, Hale's going to pick up the first kill. That's going to be first blood, and then a little bit of follow-up from Vermilion. One more basic attack, he gets the slow and picks up the kill onto Featherstone. That's going to be Vermilion picking up the second kill, and that's going to be 2 for the red side. That is Ryan Stiltz, right?
Yep, Ryan Stiltz ending up with 2 kills already up in the top lane. So Bastion just going a little bit too deep and actually managed to take a tower shot right there, which is one of the big things that allowed Ryan to say, alright, this is go time, that's what we can initiate on, and they just ended up turning that around really quickly. A little bit of a Claudessa hook in the mid lane, and we see a Ray stun. He's going to take quite a bit of damage, but that should be able to disengage right there. They're going to keep going onto her, and she's going to be dropped very, very low, and they're going to turn on to Tinder, but all in all, a little bit of action in the mid lane. Ray is coming out with a little bit of low health as well as low mana, so we're going to have to see how this lane continues in the mid lane.
Yeah, potion popped out of the Blazer. She's back up to pretty much full health, so really just forced her to make use of that that additional item. Nice hook in by the Tinder, but she's not going to be able to burn Claudessa just yet. Blazer's going to be looking to farm up a little bit more before she picks an engagement. Meanwhile, back up in the top lane, Featherstone very, very low. Gonna go down to the Vermilion, and now Hale and Vermilion turning on top of this Bastion. He's going to go very low. Manages to get under the tower. The Bounder slow is there, but they weren't able to finish the job, and they're starting to do a pretty good job of not caring about the fact that there are tanks. If they continue to get fed like this, that Hale's going to get out of control.
Yeah, they're gonna Bipolar's going to have to play the top lane quite a bit more defensively now, especially now that there are they're 3 kills ahead on the side of Ryan. They're getting quite a bit of extra experience and farm. And let's actually take a look at those right now. Vermilion's actually doing quite well, almost sitting at 500 gold per minute. So the top lane is really going to snowball. So in order to prevent that, you know, Bipolar just needs to play it safely from here on out. They need to stop the bleeding, and if they can do that for long enough, then they'll be able to come back into it during the late game, which we talked about being the better side of where their comp performs.
Yeah, a little bit of taunting there by Hale up in the top lane. If we take a quick look down the bottom lane, Trixie doing a pretty good job of harassing through at about 380 GPM to the 412 by Minerva. So Minerva actually coming out ahead in this lane a little bit, despite the harassment, is farming slightly better than that Trixie. Meanwhile, in the middle lane, there is going to be a knockup by the Claudessa. A nice snare out from the Tinder, but she's going to fall. Blazer not able to help her out, and that's going to be Claudessa picking up a kill, getting a little bit more back on the green side of the map. And now Featherstone getting chunked down. Hale is going to be in there doing so much damage. They try to finish off the Vermilion. Bastion doesn't have the power just yet, and that's going to be Vermilion walking away. Another kill going over to the side of Ryan Stiltz.
Yeah, and again, just a little bit too aggressive in the top lane. We saw the positioning where Bipolar had one hero over here, one hero over here, and at that point they got ambushed really, really easily. They were pushing out a little bit too far in the lane and just didn't see the fact that Hale had left lane and was coming around for another gank. So it's unfortunate for them, but they're already quite a few kills behind. That is 3 kills on the Vermilion so far. And experience from kills and all that is shared as well. So in the top lane, Hale and Vermilion have 4 kills between them, and that's going to give them quite a bit of extra gold. And we see that already. 500 gold per minute Vermilion is sitting at the moment, and 480 for Hale, compared to the barely even 400s over on the side of Bipolar.
Yeah, Featherstone and Bastion going to do what they can to farm up as much as possible, picking up a couple of jungle camps, which is one of the advantages to the current Strife meta. It's 2-2-1. Starting from top to bottom, which means you can make use of those camps without detrimenting the gold per minute of a jungler. So they're able to pick those up, supplement a little bit of their lack in terms of kills, and they have lost a little bit of lane gold. They just, you know, from being dead, there's a little bit of a problem there. Hale getting very, very aggressive pushing forward, and we have a lot of action up here in this top lane, but Ray is moving in from FnK. He's going to start to make his way around the backside of this map, and we're going to see whether or not Bastion sets up the play. Bastion going to make the dash in, misses it, and now Ray goes in with his rocket boots, goes in for the dash. Actually, no, does he have a bounder? Yeah, no, it was the rocket boots. Missed the stun, and now the turnaround by Hale, and they don't care about anything that FnK can do. Ryan Stiltz is just going to start to pressure down, and that's going to be a problem for this middle lane. Tinder is in here, and now Blazer looking to rotate back in, hasn't decided to pop any of her skills, doesn't use the ultimate or the stealth. Does she have that yet? She does. So it's just going to start to farm back up, and that's going to be a problem for FnK now that they're starting to fall pretty far behind.
Yeah, they're definitely falling super far behind. 500 gold per minute on the Blazer. That is quite a bit this early into the game, and to be honest, Bipolar really just needs to try to figure out what sort of plays they need to make. More stuff like that rake top lane needs to happen, and overall just a little bit more awareness as well. You know, we saw that in the top lane, one of the kills that they gave up was just not noticing the fact that Hale had left lane, and in the mid lane we have a little bit of an engagement there as Claudessa's ultimate is popped. She's going to try to kill Tinder, and Blazer is sitting at pretty low health under the tower, but they might try to turn on a Claudessa. Claudessa manages to get away, and she's going to be able to heal herself up in no time. So we're going to see mid lane sort of go back to where it was before, just a little bit of a farm lane, and that's really, you know, mid lane's been sort of farming it out, while top lane is the one that's been having most of the action so far.
Yeah, once they saw that Tinder plant go down, they sort of had to get out of there pretty quickly. They'll be back up to full health fairly fast. Snare missing out from that Tinder. He wasn't able to lock that down. And I think, you know, the lockdown potential out of this mid lane is pretty dangerous. If they can actually get on top of Ray, they'll blow him up almost instantly. Taking a look down at the bottom lane, Trixie kind of low. GPM again, 412 from Minerva and 357 on the side of this Trixie, so she's falling pretty far behind. And if Minerva is able to sort of get past pretty much that first item phase, she's gotten her Chalice of Clarity already. things start to get actually become a little bit of a problem as we see this Minerva going deep onto Trixie, drops her very, very low. She is going to pop out the shield on that barrel roll. And again, Minerva has control of this lane.
Yeah, Minerva's really got... Every time Trixie gets anywhere near it, anywhere near the farm, Minerva can dash forward and just deal a ton of damage to her, and right now we're seeing that, and oh, she's going to try to go in for it, and that's going to be a quick, almost kill, but she's going to be able to pop the heal just in time. Tortoise saving her life right there, but still, what? There's not too much that she's going to be able to end up doing. Meanwhile, in top lane, Ray's going to come in for a gank. Doesn't manage to land the stun, however.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of abilities burned there. Bastion going to go pretty far in, forgetting almost nothing. Now Hale charging forward as the rotate comes in from the Blazer. She is going to land the snare down. A lot of damage down to the Featherstone. The ultimate comes out of Hale. He's going to fall. This is actually turning in the favor of FnK. Way too much dive under the tower. They're going to get really, really low. The shield coming out from Bastion is going to back them up, and Blazer and the Vermilion are going to need to get out of there. That was a really good play by Featherstone to continue to back up, continue his auto attacks, and reduced all of the damage Hale was about to do.
Yeah, Ray, Bastion, and Feather have a really good... They have a really good comp in terms of basically turning around fights. And I was actually... Someone said in chat to show player names. So I'm going to do that right now. There you go. So you guys will be able to see what these guys' player names at all times. Thank you for the little bit of feedback here. This is the first tournament we've ever run for Strife, so we're just still getting used to some of the spectator stuff. However, we have been in quite a few different games ourselves over the years. We both come from League of Legends, but it looks like FnK,
mid.
yeah, they're trying to force down this tower as fast as possible.
Well, down goes the Tinder plant, the Cauldron coming in from Trixie. They should be able to get this, but at what cost? And I'm listening to your silent laughter over there as I say such a common caster phrase. The mid tower is going to go down. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, Vermilion and Hale are going to pick that up with their insane amounts of attack speed, rotating for FnK onto the Baldir. They should be able to pick this up pretty quickly, and no, Ryan Stiltz is not going to be able to rotate in to contest this at all. It wouldn't be safe for them right now. They still have their Minerva down in the bottom lane, farming and pushing out that tower. Mid tower is taking no damage, bottom tower is basically taking no damage, so it was more or less a one-for-one trade with nobody getting that much more of an advantage either way.
Yeah, so Bipolar doing a very good job with their rotations, so we're seeing that sort of comp thing come into play, where Ryan Stiltz wanted to win the early game, and they did win the early game, but we'll have to see how well they can pressure that into the mid game, because the later we go on, the better Bipolar Fanatics, or FNKs, or I'm thinking Fnatic, Bipolar FnK is going to be having a better time with the mid game rotations and better time with late game team fights.
Yeah, Ryan Stiltz did make a really good rotation there. They brought 4 people into the middle lane, brought down that Terra very, very quickly with the combination attack speed between Vermilion, between Hale, and also Blazer, who's picked up mostly damage, actually. She doesn't have that much attack speed going on. So, really just, that top lane that did a really good job of getting ahead. You've already seen Vermilion with his Frost Prism, so that's going to add a lot of control to their team composition, which is, part of their problem. They do have some CC, but they don't have any hard engage. If they have that sort of debilitating strength of a slow, that's going to allow them to set up a lot more plays with very good positioning, and wow, another 4-man rotation into the bottom lane to push out this Minerva and pick up the tower for FnK.
Meanwhile, top lane, they're going to see what they can do to try to kill Extreme. Trixie is going to be able to run away pretty well. Oh, nice stun right there, and the follow-up ultimate from Hale. He's going to be doing quite a bit of damage, but the heal is just a little bit too much. Vermilion going to see if he can pick up the kill at the very end. He does, but will Cloud Strife go down to one last tower shot? Yes, he will. So one return kill right there. However, as you said before, they were pushing the bottom tower. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, we have another engagement.
Yep, dive in by the Tinder. She's going to get out of there. Blazer pops the ultimate. Up in top lane, we have Minerva duking it out with 2. Bastion doesn't go too deep under the tower. Featherstone does a little bit of damage, and Minerva should be able to hold that for just a little bit longer. And, transferring back up to the top lane, we do have 280 carries up here. They should get out of here soon. They are fairly low. Wouldn't be too safe to continue pushing the tower. So I don't know if that trade was entirely worth it. And instant teleport back in for the Hale. They do not want to let up the pressure in the top lane.
Yeah, pressure is going to be one of the big things that allows Ryan Stiltz to continue snowballing their lead, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. However, sometimes they just go a little bit too deep. If we saw that Cloud Strife were to rotate out and just try to basically give up the Trixie kill. There's not too much Trixie could have done in return, and they could have actually rotated mid to finish off this tower. As you can see, it's very low health right now, and it's just regenning very slowly. But, you know, if they were to make that rotation, they would have been able to come out of it with the tower, instead of just only being able to take that one-for-one trade.
Yeah, so a big stack up here towards the mid lane, and Ryan Stiltz, they get out of there so fast, looking to possibly make a transition down to the bottom lane. They've been leaving Minerva there to farm, pretty much to her heart's content. We'll see what she decides to pick up as her next item. But they've now rotated 3 people in here trying to bring down the tower. The nice Blazer hook comes in, followed up by the Tinder. That's probably going to result in the dead Trixie, but they decide to back off, and more concerned with picking up the tower than diving for the kill. Meanwhile, up on the top side of the map, Baldir being picked up by FnK. That's going to be the second Baldir of the game being picked up for them. So supplementing out their gold despite the loss of gold advantage towards the early game. And now in the middle lane, a big push in by the Hail Vermilion combo, which has done a lot of rotating around the map. They'll pick up that turret as well. Turret going down in the bot lane, and a gold advantage still in favor of Ryan Stiltz. Actually, a little bit of an engagement here. The slow coming out of Vermilion, that Frost person doing work. The ultimate comes out of Trixie, but Hail is able to dodge it, pops out his ultimate, and gets the knockup. Now Bastion coming into the middle has popped his ultimate, doing what damage he can, but is going to get collapsed on by the remaining members of Ryan Stiltz. That's going to be a double kill for Hail, and they should be able to either transition onto this generator or possibly into the bottom lane, as Minerva is continuing to push relentlessly.
And really good pressure and rotations right there by Ryan Stiltz. They were able to just rotate anyone back into the back line for Bipolar and just basically take them out. And now they're rotating bot really good out of their rotations right now. They're getting tower after tower after tower, and so far Bipolar's just been sort of pushing every lane and not really grouping up nearly as often as Ryan Stiltz. So Ryan Stiltz just going to be able to roam as a 5-man clump across the map, try to catch out any picks they can like they did with the Feder, and push down towers. So right now there's only one outer tower that's actually still left up. That's top lane. We might see a little bit of engagement here.
Out comes the stare onto the Claudessa. She's going to run back in the middle of the fight. Hail taking a ton of damage, doesn't have an ultimate to pop. He's going to get out to the side. Now they've turned on the Claudessa, bringing her down. Bastion jumping on top of the Vermilion in the back line. He's going to almost get him, but a nice bind out there by the Blazer is going to deter that. Featherstone doing what damage again. Nice stun by the Ray. Now turn onto the Tinder, a little bit more damage. Trixie Laser coming through. Hail, he needs to get out of there. One nice slow, and they're going to have him. The Cauldron isn't there from Trixie just yet, but it's going to be the Q out of Featherstone. Double kill for him, and he's going to pick that up. That might be the transition onto Sindara as they take control of the vision. Actually, they missed the vision relic, but they're going straight for the Sindara as they know, or not Sindara. They keep rotating towards it, and I think they want it. They're going to start to clear out their waves as they're actually in a bit of trouble in terms of how many towers of theirs have been pushed down, but that was a great play by FnK and swung the gold lead a little bit back in their favor.
Yeah, a lot of that is just them being able to land their abilities, because we saw that massive Ray stun lock down 3 people, and that I don't want to say turn the fight, because the fight was already slightly in their favor, but that definitely locked down the rest of the team fight and ensured that it was a victory on their part. And past that, they just, again, they have the tanky line that Bastion is going to be able to just run into wherever he wants, use his ultimate, as well as shield all of his allies. So stuff like that is really good to just prevent sort of this really high burst dive comp that Ryan Stiltz have. And Ryan Stiltz, they need to do what they were doing before. You know, they can't necessarily fight straight up team fights as well, so they need to try to get picks. They try to get one right here, but the dash out is going to be able to prevent that. And right now, there looks like they're going to try to 5-man push mid. At this point, hopefully they just try to keep pressuring, just clear waves and let all of their waves push rather than force fights.
Yeah, currently Featherstone only has 2 completed items outside of his power boots. He's got another level 2 power shard, so he'll be able to start stacking up his items a little bit better. He has his Demon Fang and his Mystic Dagger, which is gonna, a Mystic Dagger on Featherstone is pretty good because every time you proc that Q, you do good damage. But they need to, Ryan Stiltz, they need to continue to pressure and not let Featherstone catch up, because if he catches up, not much catches up, but gets much further into the game, they're going to run into trouble where he's going to be able to two-shot and take away all of their power and so of their characters. Dash in by the Bastion, he doesn't manage to get anything off in the top lane. Featherstone was sneaking around the backside but didn't want to engage. Ray is there, but they've decided to call off the play. They weren't able to catch anyone there. Had they gotten off the Bastion, so we probably would have seen them go all in for that play. 2 in the bottom lane for Ryan Stiltz, 1 in the middle, and the 2 roaming. This buddy pair of this Vermilion and Hail, Cloud Strife and Block Letters, because I can't see what any of that is, have been doing a really good job of aggressing forward. They check into the bush by Claudessa, doesn't result in any plays, and now Hail is thinking about it, is going to get hit by the Featherstone, it starts to get slowed down, the Ray stun is going to miss, and that should be the disengage for the moment.
Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, we have both Minerva and Blazer pushing this tower, pushing this generator as hard as they can, but it looks like they're going to be collapsed on for a moment. They're probably going to be able to make it out in time. It's going to all depend on whether or not they can dodge Claudessa's Q, and it looks like Claudessa is actually just going to go the other way around, does not try to want to force a 1v2 when the rest of his team is backed off. So we're just going to see both teams again, just sort of posture around and see what kind of opening they can find. Ryan Stiltz really needs to just catch picks at this point. You know, as we've seen before, they can't really hold their own in straight-up team fights. Looks like they're going for a Baldir, however, Bipolar knows about this.
Yeah, Bipolar.
And if they don't now, they do after the Sentry turret.
Yeah, they're going to start to position in, doing a ton of damage, and Ray is able to blow up that Blazer. She's going to go down very, very fast. Meanwhile, Ryan's still trying to pick up this Baldir. They should be able to get that for free, but that's going to be a problem as the pressure is coming in onto their inner turret. Minerva is there. There is only 4 man. The 5th man Ray is going to be falling up very, very soon. The shield out of Bastion is going to help set up the minions, and the dash in by the Hail. He's looking for a target, is near Claudessa, gets hit by a ton of damage from the Trixie, knocked back by the Claudessa Q. That is going to set him very, very far behind. He's going to need to stay out of trouble for a little while as the next wave starts to set up, and I think we'll see an engagement pretty soon as Blazer is coming back in goes the Hail. He gets off the ultimate, only gets 2, gets stunned up by the Blazer, taking a ton of damage. Claudessa in the middle of the fight along with the Bastion, that double tank line doing so much work. Bastion is almost going to go down, but Claudessa is going to start to soak up all the rest of the damage. Now Vermilion, very, very low, needs to be careful. It's going to start to do a lot of damage to the right. Ray is going to dash out. Tinder isn't able to get off another snare. She lays down the plant, and that's going to cause the defense, but they're going to lose 2 for that and still take a ton of damage onto that tower. Tank line from Bipolar FnK starting to do work.
Yeah, and so much... Basically, it's so hard for Ryan Stiltz to get through that tank line of Bipolar, and, you know, initiating there was actually the right idea by Ryan Stiltz. They just had to execute it a little bit better, because at that point, Bipolar, all they really needed to do was keep poking. They have a ton of poke with Ray and Trixie, so that's going to be able to poke out whoever they want, and basically lower anyone on Ryan Stiltz to the point where Ryan Stiltz would not want to engage off of the tower anymore. That's the basics of sieging. You know, you try to poke out, clear waves, get tower damage, and make it so that your opponent doesn't want to force the engagement on you. And Bipolar was doing just that, so instead of letting the bleed happen and wait until they get poked down more and more, Ryan Stiltz decided to go for it, which was the right call. But, you know, if Hail could land an ultimate on more people, but ooh, a nice little Doom Bush right here. They're not going to be able to catch anyone quite yet, but Toxic Player goes down a little bit low.
Ooh, on the top side, Minerva making getting some damage down onto the Ray. The remaining members from Ryan Stiltz have grouped up, and I thought they were going to lose somebody there. But good disengage. They didn't get hit by the Cauldron, and I think at this point, Ryan Stiltz, they need to find picks because their team is not built for sieging. They're not going to be able to try and break the base. They need to continue to farm out, see if they can get. You know, I'm not saying that they'll do that much better towards the late game, just because, you know, eventually those tanks are going to get too tanky. You know, it's always a toss-up, you know, whether or not carries reach that masterful point where they can burn through a tank no matter what, or whether or not the tanks wind up getting too tanky. We also haven't seen any of the augments on any of these guys' items just yet. I was actually going to take a look at that if I could. I think it's Tab. Yeah, Tab. So not that many of these guys have built augments. Some of these guys are probably a lot newer players to the competitive scene and don't have max level accounts. So that'll be a little bit of a problem. Down comes the Tinder plant. That's going to burn out the minion wave and give them a little bit of a respite. While Deer is back up, and that's going to be instant rotation for FnK.
Yep, and they're probably going to be able to take this uncontested. This late in the game, Baldir's going to get burned down really, really quickly, and it's also quick enough so that Ryan Stiltz can't necessarily force a Sandara off of this. So they're just going to be able to push mid for a little bit, but at this point, Ryan needs to get back onto their rotation game. They need to try to force something mid, and as soon as they clear the wave, or as soon as they meet a little bit of opposition, move down to another lane, because that's really one of the ways where you can set up picks for the enemy team. But oh, nice initiation right there.
Yep, there's going to be a nice bind out of that Tinder onto Claudessa. She has popped her ultimate. Meanwhile, Minerva in the backline getting burned down by the Featherstone. She's going to fall. Nice Cauldron coming in from the Trixie. Hale has to get out of there. And now Vermilion pops his ultimate, is able to dash away, but the dot is going to finish him off. Following up onto the Blazer. I don't think anybody's going to be able to find them. That's going to be Sindara.
It is going to be Sindara. So one thing I'd like to note about the team fight right here was for the entire time, Bipolar's Bastion was sitting right in this bush, and we saw 3 people from Ryan Stiltz standing right around here, and they actually couldn't get into the fight because Bastion was sitting right here. He was in the way. If anyone were to cross that line, you know, they'd be exposing themselves as a squishy to someone else. So there goes the Sindara. We'll see what lane they decide to send it down, and I'm not too sure that it matters quite which lane they send it down, so long as they just play around it really well. Out of that Sindara, however, it looks like Ryan Stiltz is going to be able to take that final top tower, so pushing is still in favor of Ryan Stiltz. But we'll see what this Sindara actually does for both teams, because Sindara really, the fact that Kratos gets sent down a lane basically forces teams to group up. And if Ryan Stiltz doesn't group up, then, you know, the Kratos is going to be able to disable the generator and end up taking it as well when Bipolar's team groups up as well. So we're going to see almost forced team fights here, which is something that really works in favor of FnK.
Yeah, so you know we're reaching that MOBA masterful point where things are starting to tip. The composition from Ryan Stiltz is starting to falter. They weren't able to break the base. They weren't able to keep them off rotations. There was a really nice collective regrouping out of FnK. They hunkered down and they dealt with the fact that they were being outmaneuvered, and they waited it out. Now that we have Kratos pushing down the lane, he's going to do a little bit of damage to Blazer. Should start to jump onto this tower in just a minute. And there he is. So he's on top of the tower. Out comes a nice Tinder plant. Hale in the middle of the fight is going to get stunned out by the Ray. A little bit of damage down onto him. Claudessa pushing forward, and it's actually Bastion who's going to set this up. Nice Claudessa hook back in. Is going to pull in 3 targets. They're going to bring down the Hale as well as the Vermilion. Nice hook in by Tinder, but she's going to need to be careful as to how far she steps forward. Kratos now on top of the generator doing a little bit of damage. Oh, how much damage are you going to be able to do? Minerva gonna get hooked back in, burned down by that laser, and it's going to be Claudessa who picks up that kill. Now onto the Blazer, they do a little bit more damage. Kratos has fallen, and really all the members from FnK do need to back up, but that was a lot of damage and a good team fight. The gold lead, I think, has now shifted back in their favor, or it's really close. Yes, now in their favor by about 3,000 gold.
Yeah, and one thing that happened in that fight, and again, insolence on Bastion. I don't know what that came from, but Bastion. Basically, we saw him standing right here, zoning out 3 members of Ryan Stiltz. That is, again, just so huge, and they have to really just burn through him before they can do anything else, because he's actually got quite a bit of threat on him. If he uses his ultimate, he gets more attack damage, and everyone around him gets slowed as well. It's really hard to get through that sort of big tanky line that Bastion gives them, and on top of that, Claudessa is the one who's staying back and protecting the carries. So even if you do decide to completely ignore Bastion, run through and try to target the carries, Claudessa is going to be there. Claudessa is going to be able to do damage with her ultimate, which puts out quite a bit of AoE damage. She's going to be able to CC, she's going to be able to heal people, and that's just something that's just so hard to play against when you don't personally have a big tank line, because in order to fight that tank line, you really need good ranged carries, and you need people to protect those ranged carries, because those are the ones that really end up tearing down the tank's late game. And as we see, there's just not quite enough protection for, say, the Vermilion on the team of Ryan Stiltz.
Yeah, the other thing is, although Minerva is starting to tank up, Tinder's got a little tankiness, Hale tankiness. So Hale's starting to do tanking gauge. It's a little too late in a lot of the situations, but we do have a little bit of a sneaky base race here. It is going to be down in the bot lane, Hale, Vermilion, and Tinder trying to bring this down. They do have the Tinder plant, and that's going to help them out. They may be able to pick up this generator. Meanwhile, in the middle lane, the first generator is going to fall. Nice snare down onto Blazer. She's going to fall, and it's going to be the base race. I think that FnK is going to be able to finish this one off. I don't think that anybody from the other team is going to be able to make it back. Claudessa's popped their ultimate. The others have teleported in. He does have his ultimate. It's going to be a nice knockup, but the crux comp is very, very low. In comes the Vermilion, a little bit more damage, but that is going to be FnK picking up the win off of a base race. Good coordinated play and a very strong team comp.
Definitely. The team comp was really one of the big things that allowed them to win. We saw Ryan Stiltz get off to a great start early. They had Hale and Vermilion top, 5 kills between them with only a few minutes into the game. It was huge in terms of their lead early, but they weren't able to capitalize on it because as soon as Bipolar FnK decided to basically I don't know what screen to switch to now, but as soon as Bipolar FnK uh, started grouping up and realizing that their team comp was the one that benefited so much more from having a 5-man stack, they became almost unstoppable. They roamed together, they took objectives together, and that was really the big thing that allowed them to win that game. On top of that, we saw so much good zoning by Bastion, so all in all, good play by FnK. They really made their team comp work, even though they had a shaky start.